Hey there, all you cool cats and kittens. This is Miss Cosler down at the At-Home Learning Update. Yes, I watched Tiger King. I apologize. I have too much time on my hands. Hi guys, welcome back. So obviously we're gonna start with talking about some formatting changes. So instead of me introducing you to the daily vlog, welcome to the weekly vlog. At our faculty meeting on Friday, we were told that we needed to reformat our Canvas pages and follow a specific template and provide work in a weekly format, which I didn't have a problem with because I was already kind of doing that. You guys know I was giving basically a week's worth of assignments at a time, but we'd originally been told that these needed to be kind of packaged in a daily format. So through hours of staring at my screen on Friday, I reformatted things to be more weekly. So the change is to simplify things for you and make things easier to use. I also have been struggling to get people to watch the video updates, although they are so crucial to your success and take me hours and hours and hours and hours, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, hours and hours to create. So I just thought it would make more sense and you'd be more likely to watch if it was one video per week instead of 3.
Radical!
So let's talk about that Canvas reformat. When you check out my Canvas page, you'll now see that your assignments are posted in a grid and that there is a link to a page for each week. When you click the link with the date, you will find this video, a description of your learning activities for the week, any resources you would need, and links to your discussions and assignments. I will continue to push these out via announcements as well because I know some of you like the capability of commenting or asking questions that way. So overall, the only thing that has changed for us is the format of how this information is communicated. Kind of the structure and function is still the same. The next thing I'd like to touch on is grades and Skyward. A note on grades and Skyward. When you create an assignment in Skyward and you set a due date, as soon as that due date passes, the assignment shows as missing. So in the past, I would wait until I had an assignment graded before I'd create it in Skyward. However, since I have nothing from you that is an actual physical copy that I can hold on to grade, and we have so many digital pieces going right now, the best way for both of us to keep track of those is if I go ahead and create that space for it in Skyward. It'll show you when all your due dates fall, and it'll help me grade gradually over time. Now for things like IXL and Canvas quizzes, those scores are generated automatically for me, and it doesn't require any work on my part, really, other than taking your score and plugging it in Skyward. Things like reading logs or the Create Your Future project, those things that I actually need to read and assess sometimes take a little longer. So if your missing assignment in Skyward just is blank, it just has a star, it says it's missing, there's no 0, there's no NHI. Maybe you have turned it in and I'm just working on grading it, maybe you haven't. The way you know that there is an assignment that I do not have from you is it will say 0 NHI. Now, the thing that I need everybody to understand, with the learning model that we're in right now, those 0 NHIs don't have to stay 0 NHIs. Up until the day that grades are ultimately due at the end of the year, I'm not having any hard windows where you can't turn work in anymore. But if I don't put those zeros in Skyward, you won't necessarily know that you're missing work or how it's impacting your grade. So the 0 NHI for me right now is more of a communication tool to wake up some of the people who are just not doing any work. Any late or missing assignment can still be turned in. With late IXLs and Canvas quizzes, if you submit something late, you're gonna need to let me know. I will tell you when I close an IXL skill, when I'm no longer checking it. If I haven't closed a skill, I will look at your IXL scores twice a week. You can rest assured with that. If you've received a message from me that a skill is closed, it doesn't mean you can't still do it. It means I'm not checking it anymore. So if you do it, you need to let me know. I want to preface this by just saying that this at-home learning thing is super overwhelming and frustrating for both of us. I know you guys are trying to keep up with 8 classes. I'm trying to keep tabs on 150 students. So just be kind and understanding when you do want to reach out about grades. I had a particularly negative interaction with a student last week in regards to grades, and implications were made that I don't care about my students and I'm not trying to support your success. Nothing could be further from the truth. You guys are my everything, you are my joy, you are my passion, you are why I do this job. At this point, I'm doing literally everything I can think of to communicate with you, to let you know the decisions I'm making, and to keep you in the loop on things. But that communication can't be a one-way street. Here are the things I'm doing to try to make sure that we stay connected, that you can continue learning, and that you know what's expected of you. Number 1, I'm doing the daily video. Number 2, I'm posting explicit detailed directions in Canvas in 2 locations for you. My homework hotline redirects you to those 2 locations. So if you weren't sure where to check on Canvas, you have been directed there. Number 3, I reached out to all of my reading students a week ago Saturday and then last Friday with specific directions and explanations of everything I'm doing with at-home learning. So even if you had ignored my posts, had ignored the announcements, had ignored homework hotline, you have received several direct messages from me in your Canvas inbox. Number 4, I consistently maintain office hours on Zoom every single weekday. Every day from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., I am here on Zoom. Even if it's a situation like last Friday, where I'm on Zoom from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. and no one shows up. If you aren't clear on directions, if you're confused, show up, talk to me, communicate with me. Number 5, I give you oodles and boodles of time for every assignment I give. There is no graded assignment that you will receive from me that you have had less than 1 week to complete. In fact, most assignments actually have about a 2 to 3 week turnaround before they are due. The shortest amount of time I've given you to do any assignment so far has been your quiz, and you still had 10 days to work on that. Now, the unpleasantness that happened last week was surrounding the quiz, and I was a little confused by it all because in my mind, I have done everything I can do to make you successful with this quiz. To begin, my quiz policies haven't changed since January. You know that when I give you a quiz on Canvas, you'll have several days to take it. I always encourage you to take it at the time when you will be most successful, whatever that would be for you. I let you have unlimited access to your resources on the quiz. That's always been the case. Quiz 1, you could use Little Rock Girl 1957, the text. You could use all internet resources you have available to you. I did time the quiz, but again, you had almost 2 hours to work through 16 questions. So for people to make accusations that the quiz wasn't fair,
that is blasphemous. That is blasphemous.
I also gave you more than half the answers in the daily videos that I've been creating for you. So 2 things I need to address. Number 1 is you need to keep in mind that Canvas provides me with the data on how long you spent on your quiz. So those of you who would like me to believe that you took your time and looked up answers and still scored low, I will tell you most people spent around 10 or 12 minutes on the quiz. An overwhelming majority spent less than 15. When you have almost 2 hours to work and you spend just a small fraction of that time, I can't think you were so worried about your quiz score that you were taking advantage of all of the resources you had available to you. The other thing is, guys, for the timed out excuse, maybe you did let it time out, but you also know that I have my quizzes set up to show you the correct answers once the quiz is complete or once your quiz answers have been submitted on your behalf. So I know something that does happen because I've had it happen relatively recently is that if I reset your quiz for you, you could very easily have copied down all the correct answers and then just go through and get yourself a 100%. The point of quizzes is to show you're learning, to show what you know. Doing something like that is essentially a form of cheating. So if you've let your quiz time out, even though you've known all semester long my expectations, for you to be assessed again, it would require me to create a new assessment for you. I don't think it's fair for you to put more work on me because you didn't follow directions. We may not be thrilled with our quiz scores. It is what it is. What you need to understand is that I am not trying to set you up for failure. We will have multiple more assessment opportunities so that you can balance out your score if you kind of bombed this first quiz. Before you take quiz number 2 over Little Rock Girl 1957, allow me to emphasize some things that will set you up to be successful. Number 1, take your time and utilize your resources. Another resource you may not have thought about is the fact that if you timed your quiz where you started it at 1 p.m. any weekday, Monday through Friday, and you find yourself with a question about the quiz that you would like me to answer, you could easily pop over to Zoom and ask me that question in person on office hours. Also, head into this quiz knowing it's not just gonna ask you comprehension questions. That wasn't our only focus. I've talked extensively about text structure and analyzing text structure. If I don't assess you on that skill, I don't know how effective my instruction has been, or if you are any more critical of a reader or have any better grasp on text structure than you did before we started this unit. This quiz will focus on writing style, informational writing, and narrative writing. It will continue to focus on text structure. In this quiz, we're also going to look at how these informational text structures that pop up, description, sequence, cause and effect, compare and contrast, problem, solution, how they're represented in Little Rock Girl 1957. This is a concept I addressed in my video to you last Thursday, where I gave you 4 quiz answers through my analysis. If that was confusing to you, come to office hours.
Period. Period. Period.
You don't even have to join Zoom with video on if you don't want to. I just don't know how to explain things any further than I am right now. That's why I make these videos, so you're not just relying on written instructions. But if the videos aren't working and the written instructions aren't working and you won't come meet with me, I literally don't know what else to do.
Period. 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 Period.
And as always, a thing I've emphasized forever, guys, the quiz is available today. You don't have to take it today.
Period.
Period.
Period. Period. Period. Period.
It's not due until next Thursday, April 30th. Pick a time in those 10 days when you feel like you will be successful with this quiz. Don't just click it and start it and then say, oop, should have waited. Wait, review, come to office hours, reread, listen to the audiobook if you need to, rewatch some of the old vlogs, do whatever you need to do to prepare so that you feel successful.
Nothing left to say, like, period. 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 Period.
That's what you-
Period. Period. Period.
So this week is a transitional week. We are wrapping up our discussion of Little Rock Girl 1957. This week I've started a discussion thread in Canvas, which is a place where we can review the book, but also kind of talk about those bigger picture historical and societal significance of this text. I know some of you have been keeping up with the daily work, but there are a great many of you who are very far behind right now. So as we transition to our new unit, I'm not going to introduce a lot of new work this week, so that those of you who are ready to move forward can take a few steps forward while also waiting for your classmates who have fallen behind to catch up. We've talked throughout the year about how all units of study for language arts classes, reading, lang and lit, we actually focus on 2 separate things. We focus on content and we focus on skills and strategies. The content of our new unit is going to be about survival. What makes a survivor? How does one survive? We're going to read some extraordinary tales of survival. The essential questions that we're going to ponder as we go through this unit are: what makes a hero? How do we survive adversity and overcome obstacles? To what extent are we able to control our fate? or our future. So those will be the things that we're kind of dealing with conceptually. In terms of skill set, we're getting into one of my favorite areas of exploration, and one that will set you up to be a successful critical reader in the future. And that is looking at authors' perspective. We're going to be looking at the tools authors use stylistically to convey their perspective on the subject that they're writing about. This includes tone, mood, word choice, connotation, denotation, details that are intentionally included or emphasized in the text, and details that are intentionally excluded or minimized in a text. The first one is really more of a game. I've provided a link to a survival quiz for you, and I'm asking you to take this quiz just to see what do you know about survival in extreme situations and out in the wild. For a preview of our skill set, we're going to start by talking about tone and mood. Tone describes the attitude an author holds toward a subject. You may have heard an adult say to you, "Don't you take that tone with me." We're talking about tone of voice, right? Vocal tone. That is a similar thing to writing. Think of a phrase. "Oh, that's great." It could be said several different ways with different tones to convey a different meaning, right? "Oh, that's great." That sounds exciting, right? "Oh, that's great." Sarcastic. "Oh, that's great." Suspicious. The different vocal tones that I used just then gave you a different sense of the subject and helped you infer a different meaning. My attitude was different in each. Whatever the that was that I was saying was great was different in every circumstance. You could tell I felt differently about it. It's the same with tone in writing. The way your author writes about a subject tells you, the reader, how the author feels and what the author thinks of that subject. When we're reading for tone, we ask ourselves at the end of the passage, how does the author feel about the subject of this piece? Now, next week, we're really going to dig in with that and kind of figure out how does an author create a tone. Mood refers more to the emotional feeling that you, the reader, get when you read something. Think of like when you're watching a scary movie, right? They use all these sound effects and lighting tricks and different camera angles, and that is what makes things so suspenseful and so scary and has you on the edge of your seat and has you pull a blanket up over your head. Authors often convey mood through description, and that's another thing we're going to be looking at. We might use similar words to describe tone and mood, but the important difference is this. Tone is not about you. Tone is about the author. What does the author think or feel about the subject? Mood is about you. It is about the way you, the reader, feel when you're reading a piece. So just to kind of start getting us acquainted with this concept, I've included an activity with tone and mood. There's one really fun and silly part of that activity, and then there's one that'll be more of a check for understanding. Just to start exploring this idea of how do authors convey their perspective, how they see the subjects that they write about, and how does that affect us as readers. So, that is more than enough talking from me this week. So it is time, look at the time. You know what time it is? Drum roll, please. It's recap time. Okay. Number 1. We're done with Little Rock Girl. If you're not, time to catch up. Make sure you are paying special attention to writing style and text structure before you take Little Rock Girl quiz number 2. It's not due until Thursday, April 30th, this week in IXL. Your required skill this week is C2 if you're working on a level H 6th grade. If you are working on level I or J, 7th or 8th grade, that same skill is actually labeled C3. So this week's required IXL is C2 for the level H 6th grade, but at the higher level, that same skill is numbered C3. Your extra credit IXL this week for every level is C1. Your purple reading log is due on Friday. And just a reminder, guys, I'm giving that week-long grace period after a due date. So if you don't get it done by Friday, don't freak out. You can always just get it done next week. Make sure to make that copy before you start editing. The question has come up, what if I've run out of books? Well, you are more than welcome to use Little Rock Girl 1957 to complete this reading log. And then honestly, guys, we're only gonna have one more after this, so we'll get there. If you are still confused about the reading log, please visit me in office hours and we can work through a couple examples together. Also, as promised, I've started my own digital reading log so you can see me model some reading log entries for you. The Create Your Future project is not due until next week. That project, if you follow all directions, should be a slam dunk A or a B. So if you struggled with your quiz, getting that done is the best way to help yourself. Whew, girl, it's a lot of talking. I am thirsty. Okay, so I think that wraps up things for me this week. Everything will be posted below. Again, this is the entire week's assignments, one stop. The biggest thing, guys, please, 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 please. If you need help, if you're confused, if you have questions, let me know. I'm here to help, but if I don't know help is needed, there's not much I can do. I love you very much. I miss you very much. And I hope everybody is doing super duper duper well. Until next week, my little darlings.